This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
There was a recent survey of about 3,000 retirees, and they found that younger retirees depend more on Social Security than those who are older. Those in their mid-70s say more than half of their income comes from Social Security. But for those already in their early 60s, that number is much higher at 67%. So with its upcoming solvency problems, we've been talking about that. Do you want your clients to depend more or less on Social Security? And how do you outline this in the planning process?
Well, I'll say right up front that I have confidence in the Social Security system. I'm absolutely convinced it's going to have to change, and we'll see that here within the next 5 years or so. We're going to see changes. So while I'm confident, I also do not want my clients primarily dependent on Social Security. I think of that really more as being there to help fund health care costs. Social Security is too big a percentage of early retirees' income, and I would suggest that that's probably why that study came out the way you described it, that people in their 60s have more of their income comprised of Social Security. That's largely because most Americans are claiming Social Security at age 62, even though their full benefits are available typically at age 66 or 67. Anyone born after 1960, their full benefits are available at age 67. And if you wait until age 70, you can get the highest possible payout. So you can claim any time between age 62 and age 70, any day during that spectrum. And the longer you delay taking benefits, the greater the payout will be. But unfortunately, many people are of the mindset that they just want to get out of the workforce as soon as possible, and they want to take any source of guaranteed income that they can, and so they'll take Social Security at 62 instead of later. And then many of them become bored in retirement, or they start boomeranging back into the workforce, particularly men who have lost their sense of purpose, for whom retirement can often be a traumatic transition. So I would say that probably has to do with the mistaken belief that we've got to quit entirely. I would say don't just retire in the expectation of a life of leisure at age 62, unless you got health problems. I would say if you're in good health, maybe think differently. Maybe you refire into a new career. Maybe it's part-time work that you transition into. Maybe it's working in a less stressful situation with perhaps a nonprofit or something that's close to your heart. But don't put yourself in a situation where you're dependent upon others, namely Social Security, in particular, to save you, because Social Security has always, for decades, stated on the front page of their benefit statement that it was never intended to be the primary source of income. It was designed to supplement pensions and personal savings. Most people don't have pensions now, so that puts the emphasis on personal savings. So please, please, please don't retire with the expectation that Social Security is going to be sufficient to take care of you. There are changes coming. It's going to get increasingly difficult for people if they're not prepared. So if you want to retire because you need a change, maybe let's start looking at the change issues. Maybe there's another way to phase into this, but we definitely want to make sure that we've got some savings.
Yeah, I mean, you want Social Security to be a very thin piece of that pie, not the whole pie, not even a big, big slice, because as you talked about here, lots of changes coming our way. It seems like the changes are changing daily, so we don't know what's going to happen now or in 10 years. So don't bet on red on Social Security, basically, right? We want to make sure that your income plan is supporting you, not the government. That is where, of course, Mark Cordner comes in.
Don't make ourselves dependent on other people. That's the key message I'd want to get out there. Don't put yourself at the mercy of others.
This is interesting. Would you consider a ticket to the Super Bowl an investment? Now, listen to this story as told by real estate and retirement expert Karen Hall on Rich Summers Report podcast.
This young guy had a Roth IRA, took it and bought tickets to the Super Bowl. Now, I don't know if you know this. Do you know that tickets are real estate?
No.
It's a lease on a seat. It's considered real estate.
So you can use your self-directed IRA?
Yeah, so this kid did this. So he bought tickets to the Super Bowl in his Roth. That was an asset. What he did is he ended up selling it for a profit. That profit went back into his Roth IRA and grows tax-free for life.
Pretty smart, right?
Yeah. There's two big issues there. I mean, I absolutely have clients like this. I could think of a couple that are on our client advisory board. They actually bought seats to the Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders here. They bought season tickets, seats. It's as she said, it's effectively a lease. It's real estate, and they ended up selling it a few years later for a profit, just like she described this other young man with the Super Bowl tickets. So it's absolutely a common practice. But I think she's also bringing up a bigger issue there that they may have downplayed a little bit there. And that is this idea of a self-directed IRA. many people don't realize that they can do alternative investments in IRAs. Most people think, well, I can just do savings accounts or annuities or mutual funds because that's what pretty much everyone's doing in their IRAs. But those individual retirement accounts can actually hold other kinds of investments like this real estate. You can have real estate, literal real estate, homes, land, commercial buildings, tickets to the Super Bowl, as she described, for example. You can do those things, or cryptocurrency, things like that, in these self-directed IRAs. Now, self-directed by definition means you're doing it on your own. You know, you're not typically dealing with an advisor like myself who provides financial and insurance products. You're typically doing it on your own. But I could think of my twin brother, for example, he lives down in Atlanta, has been an extremely successful real estate investor, and he once told me how he had this little Roth IRA from his younger years, and they went and they used it to buy a little flipper, a fixer-upper home. And within a matter of like 4 or 5 months, they had fixed the home up and sold it at a profit, and I can't remember, he doubled or tripled the value of his Roth IRA just in a matter of 4 or 5 months. And so you can do things like that. And there are trust companies that specialize in helping you with these kind of things. Now, again, I don't do self-directed IRAs for other people, for clients, but people can do these things. And I think it's important that they be aware of that. We definitely have clients who have a passion for real estate, and a portion of their money is self-directed. We're not involved in it, but they're doing the very things that this woman described. So all Americans have that privilege, and you just got to realize that there's some pretty complex rules with it against self-dealing and other things like that. You can really screw yourself up seriously bad, hurt yourself if you don't do it right. So, but it's an opportunity, and it's good to be aware of that.
All right, Mark, a woman wrote into an advice column saying both of her parents had passed and she inherited $600,000. They used a wealth management firm, which has done a good job, but their fees are kind of high. The article talked about the feelings people have at this point. You know, it's uncertainty of where to go. What do I do? The fear of doing the wrong thing. And then, of course, guilt over disrespecting their parents' memory and moving the money. Have you ever encountered this, and what's your advice?
These kind of stories are on my Google feed literally almost every day, where people are concerned about fees. I mean, there's a few different issues in there, you know, about the relationship with the advisory firm and all that. Should it continue and all that? But this question of fees is a concern for people, and it should be, because excessive fees can absolutely erode the value of a portfolio. You know, a 0.5 percentage point or 1% higher over a period of 10, 20, 30 years can have a massive devaluing effect on the portfolio's potential. So we want to be very conscious of fees. But I would say, like anything else in life, we need to be more conscious of value. And so I would encourage this woman to you know, go have a candid conversation with the firm that it sounds like she inherited from her parents and see, are they doing things that she's not aware of? Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just gouging her. I don't know. But the cheapest price is not always the best. Now, I know that, for example, our fees with my firm are very competitive because we do a lot of things. I mean, we're often, you know, 20, 30% less than the so-called competition, but it's because I do a lot of things in a group environment, classes and things like that. But again, it's more about value. I find that in my personal shopping that sometimes if I'll spend another 10 or 20% more, I get something of greater value. And so sometimes, for example, you know, I don't drive a Mercedes, I drive a Hyundai, but some people may find that a more luxury vehicle, my wife drives a Lexus, that has been a tremendous value. That vehicle is going to last forever. It's basically an upgraded Toyota. Thing's going to last forever. It did cost a little bit more because I wanted her to have some comforts, and she has those. But she was just at the dealership, and they were telling her, look, you don't even have half the mileage that this thing's capable of, and she was shocked to hear that.
Oh, wow.
And so sometimes paying a little bit more is worth it. So my whole point with this is, what are you getting for the fees? Fees are not bad if you're getting value for it. So a lot of financial, and here's another thing, with a lot of financial products, there are optional kind of bells and whistles, what we call riders, that can be attached to an investment that can guarantee certain types of performance. And I find many people are paying for those extra benefits, and in some cases they never needed it in the first place. They didn't realize that the advisor had tacked that on. But in other cases, it actually is good that they're paying those fees. Because, I mean, I literally met with a couple like 4 days ago, where they were paying a 0.5% fee on a particular financial product we did for them, and they were thrilled to see that the growth rate on their particular product is up 25% in 2 years. And that was a contractually guaranteed assurance that they hadn't fully understood when I had done this for them. So they were out-of-state clients. I was visiting with them, and I was explaining this, and they were so thrilled because they thought, oh, we saw that fee thing on the statement. We didn't understand what we were paying for. We're glad we paid that, because even with all the market's volatility, we didn't have volatility. We had a guaranteed increased growth rate. Those kind of things are possible. So again, cheapest is not always best with anything in life. Whatever, cheapest is not always the best.
Before I get to our pal Snoop Dogg here, I got to ask you, you've paid for a few weddings in your day, right?
Well, for one. A little bit for the boys, but for my daughter, absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know whenever you wrote those checks, you probably thought, man, this is big money. I am doing everything. This is going to make a big dent. I know my parents felt like that when they helped pay for my wedding. And then I came across this Snoop Dogg story. He and his daughter, Corey, were on a recent reality show, and it detailed Corey's wedding plans and whatnot. And they were actually on the Jennifer Hudson show. And, of course, Snoop was asked, what's the most over-the-top gift that he has given his daughter? This is going to blow you away. Listen to this.
You know what? It's the truth, but it was $1 million for her wedding.
Oh, my goodness.
But, Jen, I told her if it was me, my wedding would have been for $100 and $900 would have went in my pocket.
Daddy is still teaching lessons, I tell you that.
That's what I'm saying. First of all, $1 million as a gift. I know he's Snoop Dogg. He's got 100 million more, but oh my gosh. And I'm with him. I would have said, hey, I'll do a $100,000 wedding and let me invest the other $900,000. I mean, that's just common sense.
Well, I don't want to judge anyone, and you're absolutely right. For him, $1 million is maybe a small penny compared to what he has. Everything's relative for each of us. But yeah, I choke a little bit when I hear that, because I think, in my case, I'm hoping my kids can realize how many children in the world could have been fed for that difference.
Oh, it's
yeah, I have a hard time with that. We got to look at value, and that's maybe a little over the top, but.
The reality is, at some point here, some of us could be in that position for a windfall. Maybe it comes from a tax refund, maybe a holiday bonus, maybe even, gosh, if you're lucky enough, unexpected lottery winnings. What advice would you give clients when they ask you what they should do with it?
Well, that I really appreciate, because we do have a lot of clients who are getting inheritances, and we expect more and more of that in the future. And I do live in Las Vegas, so yeah, there are jackpots occasionally. I always say, take a little sliver and go enjoy it. We need to celebrate life, right? Life's not about money, but if it's me, I'm going to be like Snoop Dogg. I'm going to put 90% of it away for the future, because my life has proven to me that I don't know what's coming, and hard times will invariably come for either me or the people that I love. And I just love the observation that, wealthy people have money because they didn't spend it all. Quote unquote rich people, they may have high income, but they spend it all. So I literally have janitors who are more well off than medical doctor clients of mine, because their spending habits are different. The Texans have a great way of talking about all hat, no cattle. So all appearances, the big hat with no cattle. They're putting on a show of being the big man. All hat, no cattle is a wonderful phrase. And so early in my marriage, I talked to my wife about a concept that I had learned, and that was don't eat your seed corn, meaning a portion of our harvest, wherever that harvest may come from, a portion of the harvest needs to be held back. So I lived in Illinois for a while when I was a young teenager, and you save some of the seeds so that you can plant them for the next year's harvest. You don't consume all of the seeds. You have to save some of the seeds. And I firmly believe in the law of harvest in every aspect of our life. We reap what we sow. But if you don't have the seeds, you can't sow. And so a portion of our income has to be held back to sow for the next year's harvest. And so I love that Snoop Dogg said he himself would have kept 90% of it and would have moderated the expectations. So I'm afraid he may have taught his daughter a bad lesson by accommodating that. But,
oh, no.
When my daughter got married, my aunt came to me and she said, your job is threefold. Sit down, shut up, and shell out.
That's right.
So I can't throw a stone at Snoop Dogg. I get it. Our little girls are our little girls. So.
Oh, yeah.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and/or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.